thanks for allowing Jan and I to come and have a chat to you.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is to sort of get the history of milking in Bampton through the last century and of course into this century.
Yeah,
And
right.
As you were the person who milked the last cow in Bampton for retail, we think you can put a brilliant contribution to it. So
Right.
where were you born? Where did you start off? Where did your life start?
Actually born in a place called Great Rollright,
Oh right, yeah, no, wow.
North Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
Father, he'd been milking cows for, well, in his life about 33 years.
Right,
He was working then for a chap called Commander Longsdale,
right.
which was the Queen's cousin.
Oh really?
This is, well, yeah, I was born there.
We got royalty today then.
Well, yeah, so 1950, and obviously Father was there a few years
Yeah.
before, and because a lot of his tale was great storyteller, was the now Queen and Prince Philip used to come down there and do sort of, a bit of their pre-marriage court. Lord Mountbatten, he was always down there.
Really?
Yeah, because basically he introduced the two
Together, that's right.
Two
Yeah,
royals
yeah, that's
together.
right, wasn't it? Yeah.
And although I can't remember it because, well, obviously born then so young, but he'd always come up to me and shake my hand,
Oh, nice.
and always,
Very nice. Because he was that sort of bloke when he was
he
so
was, yeah,
easy,
yeah. He
you know,
wouldn't
a
stop
man of the
at all.
world rather than,
That's
oh yeah,
right.
I'm Lord
Yeah.
Mountbatten type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what cows was being milked there then? Was it a mixed herd or a pedigree or?
Ayrshires.
Was it?
Yeah, all Ayrshires. Father he had several tales about it, paraphernalia that used to sort of go on.
Yeah.
And there was one good sort of tale that he'd lead in, I presume in-calf heifers out of a lorry when they were all tied up in those days,
Yeah.
and led I think about 4 out, and he got them tied up, and the last one was in there, and Prince Philip insisted on having he'd bring the last one out. Of course the last one was a bit excited, seeing his mates walk up the road, come to the edge of the cattle lorry and just leapt.
As they do.
Didn't touch the tailboard at all, and just shot literally straight up the road. And Prince Philip, he hang on to it.
Did he?
Yeah, and never let it go at all.
Did he manage to put a foot down on the tailgate, or did he leap
Well, I
from the
think
top
he had
of
to
the
leap as well. He just didn't let go of it.
The mind boggles,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. So,
There's nothing more, to me, one of the best sights in my farming life was when the cows had been shut up all winter,
yeah.
and then sort of come the end of March when you've got a bit of grass out there and you're going to let them out, and they skip, even the oldest cows who can only walk at a snail's pace,
Oh,
they
yeah,
skip,
they'd all
kick
have a
their own
skipping
legs up.
dance, wouldn't they?
It makes you all feel good. This is spring at
Yeah,
last.
that's right. It's always, even if you start thinking about, it's getting near turnout time, the old cows will start
Yeah.
putting their heads up in the air, and
Yeah.
perhaps somebody go chain our egg just to smell that sweetness of the grass a little
Yeah.
bit. That's
There's that and snow, isn't it? If
Yeah.
you've got the cows will always be a bit funny
yeah,
if you're going to have snow.
yeah, that's right. And you let them out and they sniff it,
Yeah.
put their foot on it, and then all of a sudden someone go and have a bit of a dance in it. And,
What about bulls? Was there any bulls with your dad at all, or was it AI all the way
no,
then?
it was all natural service, all that bulls.
Was it? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. I don't know if I-
Asians can be quite nasty. I mean, when I had Guernsey and then well, I had Frisian as well, and towards the end, Frisian was fine. I know there's still a dairy bull is nastier than a beef bull,
Yeah.
but Asians not too clever, are they?
I don't think we ever had any problems with them. There was back in those days, I think before I was born actually, an uncle of mine was working with a tractor, and then he was in the field with I think there was a couple of bulls.
Yeah.
Not sure what actually breed they were they a Ayrshire
Right, yeah.
or a beef bull, and he literally just working around the sort of back of the tractor, I think he was, and this bull tossed him into the air, It was starting to gore him on the ground, and Father jumped on the tractor and just literally drove the tractor over the bloke.
Really?
Yeah, to save his life.
Protect him, yeah.
He was going.
Yeah. I know this is round a bit early on in the take to what I really wanted to be, but as we brought the subject of bulls out, Jan has some photos of a chap by the name of Norman Savory who used to work here, and this was at the time of the German prisoners of war.
Oh, right.
And there's a picture of Norman holding a bull, and Mr. Collins had a bull called Edgar Lee Barricus, which was the Edgar Lee herd, which I got a feeling is out Foundon way, isn't it? I'm not sure, or whether it was Mr. Smart, I don't know, I can't remember. And another one was Elmwood Epicure,
Right.
which was from Jenkinson's farm in Elmwood.
Yeah.
And one of those actually got at my dad and tossed him up in the air, but there was some fencing around the garden, the allotment across the road there, and it hit him under the bum, so that it didn't damage him, but when it hit him straight over the fence. He landed the other side. He was protected by the fence.
Yeah.
I mean, dangerous things. But,
Goodness, yeah. I mean, but back where I first started, I started working for a chap called Samuel Mouser at Park Farm, Whitney.
All right, yeah.
I don't know if you sort of know him. And just before I started with him, he was at a Frisian bull. Bought it from the Tame show.
Right.
Don't think it's the Tame show, it's the Tame cattle market.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the bull literally smashed the ring up. Well, I thought about it and said to me, well, I could have touched that bull, but he bought it and brought it home, and he was perfectly calm in his bull pen.
Yeah.
We don't let them, don't let bulls out sort of thing.
Yeah.
But,
So, with fear of upsetting Janet, I like a bull to a woman. You must never ever trust them. No matter how nice they are, you're not going to commit yourself on this.
I think.
But you must never trust them, must you? No matter how tame and how good you think they are,
No,
they can turn on you in a second.
Yeah, I'd probably say, tread with caution rather than go down your train of thought. You could get away with it.
Yeah. So, did you have bulls here at all?
Yeah. I was just going to say there was a bull in the pen when I come here, a big Holstein bull, called Garson Mylan. Not sure where he'd come from. Put a cow in fine, and I could never get a cow out of the actual pen. So I asked Victor Smith, the old manager here, I said, how did the previous cowman get the cow out from the, away from the bull? Because they said, he just blocks the gate, and you just, he'd defy you. And I said, the cowman's just going to get a bucket of cold water, throw it over the bull, while he backed off shaking his head, really let the cow out. I thought, well, that's making the bull damn sight worse every time,
Yeah.
And,
is that what you resorted to?
No, I didn't. I just left the cow in there that long until the bull was totally fed up of the cow.
Lost interest,
and he was probably in his sleeping quarters because we had an internal gate, shut the gate.
So years ago, when Dad was here, they, because of the problem with the bulls and that Dad had been got at, they designed a pen that you'd have the bull jammed back, let the cow in, let the bull out, do his business. But then of course you had to wait an opportunity to be able to slip a bar through that would separate them again to be able to get the cow out. But it was you just had to sit down, wait and be patient. I mean, so how recent did you have a bull here then,
Allan? That was the last black and white bull then.
How long ago?
Oh, that was when I first came here. 1981. And I look.
So you've been here 30 years then?
Exactly. Well, 30 years in a month. Yeah. Yes, and Yeah, about this, but I was looking back through the records, and we had quite a few cows on the farm from him, and he wasn't doing any good at all. He was throwing very bad feet, very bad sickled legs, and most of the cows from him had what are called blown udders. So within 3 months, I got rid of him. I just can't be doing with dangerous animals.
This is one thing that I think the discussion where you and I are going to go now is very important to the public, because they don't realise this. The phrase genetic engineering frightens people to death, and yet
I don't know why.
Exactly, because what we are talking about here, you had a bull that was throwing bad babies, in effect.
Yes, that's right.
And so important to the dairy industry is a cow that's on good feet, a cow that has good legs, because you spend so much time repairing feet. You bet you over any herd anywhere in this country will always have a lame cow.
Oh yeah.
You know, it is one of the weaknesses.
Yeah.
So we, I'm linking myself with you, as breeders, we had to look for something, a bull that would throw babies that had really good strong feet, good strong legs, a good shaped udder, with teats in the right places. Right. I don't know whether you ever remember a bull called Avencroft Matchmaker.
Yes.
Did you ever come?
Yes.
That bull, it was, every baby was alike. When it grew up, it had 4 teats, 1 on each corner, really good sized teeth, and was so placid.
That's right. Yeah.
You could go into anybody's house, start stroking a cow would let you stroke her, and you turn to the camera and say, "Who's the sire of this one?" Avencroft Matchmaker.
Yeah, a very docile bull.
And so it's so important. People don't realise, you know, they think, "Oh, we just go and milk cows." You don't. You choose a bull that's going to affect what you're doing, isn't it?
Well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, you're trying to basically, you're affecting your next, well, probably 10 years, because you know, if they're good animals, they will last that long or longer. So
this is the bit that frightens me, Alan, is that the dairying is in the stock. We have no cows being milked in Bampton now, and people seem to think that if it was to change, if the country was desperately short of milk, that it could be put right overnight.
Oh no.
It'd take 6 years, wouldn't it? But by the time you've got the babies in, the right kind of heifers coming along that's going to make the right kind of animal for milking, it would take 6 years before we could ever get back to where we were.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, all right, you go initially buy your whatever animals for your initial sort of stock.
Herd, yeah.
But you can guarantee they won't be what actually you want, so you're going to try and regulate that through your breed and to get it right. I mean, I've been here 30 years and I'd probably say I hadn't got it right then.
No, but that's what makes it the fun of choosing a bull that you think is going to do the improvement. Yeah. I know I had some of the very first semen to come from America. You know, remember when the law relaxed and it was allowing semen to come from America? And one of the first 6 bulls to come through was one called Bella Vernon Stargazer. And I had 6 daughters from him, and they milked. I've never had milk like it. But they took all day to milk them. So once again, another thing you have to look for is speed of giving the milk.
That's right. Yeah. This is where, going back to your choosing your bulls in your catalogues, you want the like the proof runs. They've had X number of daughters and X number of herds. Get a good wide spread, and you can actually believe the data that goes with the bull.
It's no good with it being over 100 animals. It wants to be 1,000 animals to get a good figure.
Ideally, then you know, it is what it says on the can. You know.
Yeah. Would you ever phone up a farmer who's used it and ask him what the offspring are like?
I've gone to farms to look at stock.
I've done it to you. I can't remember the bull, but you. It was. I've got a feeling it could have been a French bull. You had here. about 2 years before I started using semen from a particular bull,
Right.
and you had daughters from him, and I phoned you up to see if it was good, and yeah,
Right.
you were happy with him.
Yeah.
I can't remember what bull it was, Alan, because it was, you know, I'm
God.
probably talking 1990 something.
Right.
Were you a DIY man? That sounds good. It sounds like RAF, doesn't it?
Yeah, should it? No, because I not that I didn't want to do it, but I had enough to do because as you know, it was a one-man unit.
Yeah.
And nobody else working anywhere around because it's totally isolated.
Yeah.
You had enough to do.
That's what makes it.
Would you
painless,
explain what Don just asked you? Because while the three of us know, most people won't understand Don's question.
Well, as a one-man unit or
No, the DIY
Oh,
AI.
do it yourself. Yeah. Basically, you've got your own nitrogen flask with your semen straws in it, and you actually serve the cows yourself rather than have somebody come in
Yeah.
every day or when you required it.
So when you chose a bull, then
Yeah.
did you then? Who's doing you? The ministry at Farringdon.
Ministry, yeah.
Yeah.
When I started, yeah. About a year anyway.
A quick aside on that one. I formed a Bampton barn dance band many years ago, and we were just earning a bit of pin money with it.
Right.
And then suddenly we got an invitation to play for Swindon Civil Service Cricket Club.
Right.
And I thought, there's going to be some income tax men there, so we better register. So we registered the Bampton Barn Dance Band with the authorities so that we were above board. And when I got there, it was the AI men, wasn't it? they worked for the government, they were civil servants,
Well,
weren't they?
obviously, yeah.
Going back, so you chose a bull.
Yeah,
You chose a bull,
Yeah.
and they kept the straws, an amount of straws with them.
that's right. Yeah. So they had always in their flask.
Did you have more than one bull that you had them keep for you, or so that you would choose?
Going back in those days, I probably did. I probably because if you're trying to correct faults in cows, then you can't. You've got a job to do it with one bull.
Yeah.
In fact, it'd be a bloody miracle to do it with one bull. So usually I'd bet sometimes 3, 4 bulls that you'd use on the cows to correct.
And yeah,
You know,
yeah,
legs or the
yeah,
feet
because
or
not every
whatever.
cow's got the same fault.
No. So, you know, if you're trying to get your ideal model of a cow that's always printed in your mind,
Yeah.
you know, as you say, you can't correct all the faults of your improvements in one foul go, you know.
Mm.
So yours, your best genetics are your younger animals. So you put your better balls on them to get your ultimate end goal.
Yeah.
Can you explain what faults you might find, or what you consider faults in a dairy cow?
No, what we were saying just now, actually,
Yeah,
you're a long milking, bad feet.
I tend to think you start from the ground up, because if a cow can't walk, it doesn't matter what she looks like upstairs, you know.
Yeah, that's the point.
You've got to get rid of it. So you
Yeah.
want, you know, excellent
Feet.
good sharp feet, more or less a straight leg, not too sickled, because you know some of the old cows, you know, I mean, they used to be
Yeah,
bow shape. You know, 3 years, you know, they've had it.
yeah.
A good deep chest and a wide chest, which you know.
I got a horrible feeling now, Alan, that people watching this are thinking you're talking about a woman. You want a woman that's got good legs, a good chest.
Chest as in rib.
Don't let him lead you astray, Alan. He's naughty.
We get onto the chest bit, and then they come down to your nice, neat, well-supported udder.
Yeah. That is so important, because the sort of amount of milk that a cow would be carrying in her udder, you really need a good attachment. Cause
Good strong ligaments.
you could have well over 5 gallons in there.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably talking 60 pounds or so being hanging there.
That's right. It's surprising that if you treat a cow for antibiotics, and you've got to keep the milk out. You put them in what are called dump buckets. And you go and carry that bucket to the dairy or whatever.
And that's what she was carrying.
God, poor bloody cow carrying all that milk, you know. So, you know, they ought to go, all of them ought to go out with a smile on their face, you know, of relief. But,
Oh yeah, the cows welcome being milked, you know, there's no doubt.
Oh yeah.
So that's another aspect of milking that the public aren't aware of, that if a cow has a bad foot, you have to inject antibiotics. There's the only way you're going to clear up the abscess.
That's right.
In so doing, not one drop of that milk must find its way into the system.
You daren't.
Absolutely. So you've got when that cow comes in, you can't be half asleep.
Oh God, no.
When it comes in, that milk has to be totally and utterly kept separate.
Yeah. Especially with the milking plants that we've had, you know, the last 20 years, which were, you know, through meters and what we call direct line. So it's, you know, in the cow going through the meter, and then it's
really? Is that the system you had?
Continuous flow, right? You know, straight into the flow tube into the receiver jar and pump straight into the tank.
So how did you stop it doing that?
By using what we call dump buckets, which is a completely, you know, separate bucket on the floor, and you actually disconnected the pipeline, because you had your own, it had its own milking cluster, separate.
See, I'm sure, you would fit in with that era. That originally, when antibiotics was used on a cow and you knew you didn't have to let it in, you could get a quarter milker.
Yeah.
That you just connect that teat to a separate unit, still part of the claw, so that the milk from the mastitis quarter goes into a receptacle, and the rest of the milk carries on the normal way.
Yeah.
But you didn't dare, you know. So.
It's same as humans, isn't it? If they're treated for something, no matter what, it's in the bloodstream.
Yeah.
The bloodstream feeds everything.
Yeah.
You know, and there's major arteries in the cow's udder for developing of milk.
Did you ever have an accident? I did. I had to take a sample of milk all the way to the dairy, because we were the same dairy, Bampton Foods, out at Grove.
Oh right, yeah.
Because you were supplying them at one time, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And if you thought that you'd had a slip up, you know, they'd probably put the machine on, and then quickly whipped it away again. And think, ooh. Yeah. And so you then had to take a sample, tell the lorry driver so he didn't pick the milk up.
That's right.
And then shoot off to Grove, get them to test it, and if there was any antibiotics in it, then that tank load had. No, they would come out and pick it up and use it for something else, wouldn't they? Because Bampton Foods was yoghurt, which worked on germs.
That's right.
Yeah,
so if you've killed all the germs, it's not going to set.
No, that's right.
It's not going to turn to yoghurt.
Yeah. I'm not sure I think they used to skim it and.
They did something else with it, didn't they? But they would pick it up a separate lorry.
They could treat it.
Yeah.
Put a neutraliser in or something, but it cost a fortune.
That's right, they did, didn't they? Yeah. People don't realise of the circumstances you're in. You get when it's very muddy, and the cows come in. Though you wash them and dry them and wipe them, you can still get very small particles of silt going in there. And it's every day nowadays, your milk's tested, isn't it?
Every day, yeah.
Whereas in my days, probably once a week, or certainly in your early days, it'd be once a week that you knew they were going to test once a week, which meant you keep on your toes. Yeah. But then it came that every day, wasn't it?
Every day.
Well, what they call the amount of bugs, you know, it's given 3 letters, isn't it? What's the test that you had in your milk at the end?
What, somatic cell count?
That's it.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Somatic cell count. Yeah. And like you say, it's basically the amount of bugs that are in your milk. And to the milk contracts that are out now, you're only allowed to put your milk's only supposed to be below a certain level of bugs.
What is that level, Alan?
The last one contract we had was 150, and then I can't remember all of it because each time the contracts change. And if you're between 150 and 200, he wasn't penalised at all. Above 200 to 250, then you started getting a bit penalised. Anything above that, you were heavily penalised, in pence per litre.
And I'd only want a teeny a cow with mastitis.
Oh,
Will
gosh, yeah.
wham the cell count right, and you're in trouble. And you've got to spot that cow with mastitis before you milk her.
Yeah,
and
that is before actually there are physical clots.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Then you've got to try.
If you've got physical clots, it's obvious you've got
Yeah.
mastitis, but you can guarantee that previous day's milk's got
Could have had it in. That's
got a
right.
high cell count in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I filmed the tanker collecting the milk, a little plastic jar about that big, just over an inch in diameter, and that fits into a little gadget in the back of the tanker, and it drips into there, and the whole of the time the milk is being taken from the bulk
Yeah,
tank.
so you didn't do a sample by
No,
putting this
no,
label
that-
in then?
That bottle's there.
They do too. They obviously they didn't when you come, but they usually they dip the tank.
Yeah.
And as well as they've got a sample bottle, which takes a
I like
sample
that.
of your whole milk. There's a little spot, keep spotting all the time while all your milk's being
Yeah,
sucked out.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think Waitrose only insist on sampling the one that's done by the machine.
Really?
Yeah.
Who are you selling your milk to at the end?
We were Freshways because we technically speaking fell out with Dairy Crest
Yeah. Yeah.
through various
Reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
So our last contract was with Freshways, which were London, Acton and London.
I see.
Yeah.
'Cause when you and I were at Bampton Foods, it was very interesting. I don't know whether you were on there. They had a wonderful working relationship. That they wanted to come and watch us milk,
Yeah.
and they wanted us to go and watch them
True, yeah.
packaging and that, so that we all knew each other's problems. And I thought that was a fantastic exercise, and I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed going to Bampton Foods and watching what happened to our milk and the reason why it should be clean, the reason why it should be antibiotic free.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
and the bit that struck me was Marks and Spencer's had a lot of yogurts made by Bampton Foods.
Yeah.
So we would be in there watching, and you see this batch come along of cups for Marks and Spencer's at X amount of pence per pot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they say, right, that's it then. And then shut the machine off, take all the Marks and Spencer's cartons out the way, and then start on with Waitrose or some other company,
Yeah.
and that would be a different price.
Yeah.
And yet, it was from the same vat
Same
above, exactly the same product, you know, and they're all saying ours is better than yours.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. Mad.
Yeah, same silo of milk and everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely mad. But the pressures that I was under, and I've been packed up 15 years now, 14 years, and it's still the same by the sound of it, then, Alan.
I think it's probably got a bit more tighter because you can not so much we were Freshway, but before when we were Dairy Crest, then your milk either went to Waitrose, Marks and Spencer's, you know, they had all their sort of contracts.
Yeah.
So you was a sort of dedicated supplier. We did supply Waitrose for a
Yeah.
while. But yeah, their contracts a bit more. They would themselves come out and inspect your farm.
Right.
And, you know.
Yeah, Marks and Spencer were very hot on that, weren't they?
Yeah.
And that's why you very often get farms looking like a garden centre. I remember Parker at Curbridge.
Oh yeah.
You know, you look at it, what's he done all that for? And it's because you had to have it presented right.
Oh
Because
yeah.
you are selling a product.
Yeah. Yeah. Even they want like the grass strips down to your dairy. mowed and
Yeah,
flowers on the front, like you say, like garden centre, and they basically wanted your farm to be a sterile white environment if they could.
Yeah.
I tend to think they have the misconception that cows come in not exactly brilliantly clean or whatever, and yes, cows do mess in the parlour, and we, you can't get away from that,
No, was it? Leptospirosis was a disease I caught from my cows because they pitted on me. That serves me right.
well, yeah, but when a cow does it.
Yeah, because you're down there and the cow's backside is above your head.
They tend to wee on some of the metalwork, which keeps them restrained. So they don't just fall straight down. It hits the metalwork and
that's right.
Everywhere.
Yeah. People don't realise how we were used to working in the milk all the time. We were always in it.
Well, we had some inspectors come and wanted to watch me milk once, going back a bit, and I think they were horrified at the cow weed in the parlour. I mean, they shouldn't shot out the way.
Yeah.
But they just come out flabbergasted. Where you been living all your life?
They thought the milk come out of bottles. And Mary had exactly the same when Mary first set up with her bed and breakfast, and she won the AA Farmhouse of the Year award.
Right.
And we had somebody from BBC 3 radio come out there, and at 6 o'clock in the morning she came down the milking parlour to watch me milking.
Right.
And then when one did exactly a cow weed, and she had to shoot out with all her radio equipment, recording equipment. Yeah. And when she presented the programme, she said, I did realise in the end that cows give more than just milk. People don't realise that, do they?
You can't have a sign up outside saying this is not a toilet area. Wait till you go outside.
Did you ever have school children and that come watching at all?
Not this farm. I did on my previous farm. It was in a little village, and we had the village school come.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's so important, don't you?
Yes, yeah, because they're. Well, you used to have a lot of children nowadays. I don't see cows out in the field to start with. Cow comes from a bottle.
Yeah.
From a shop.
Yeah.
End of.
Yeah. This is the sad thing in the stories that we are trying to do for Bampton Archives. It is the fact that when my dad brought us, it was Mr. Collins that actually brought us to Bampton. Yeah. There was 14 farms in Bampton, and 13 of them produced milk.
Right. Yeah.
Because there was Townsend's, which is Castleview Farm, right opposite what was the Elephant and Castle there.
Oh, right.
Son of Townsend was Morris Dance Clown.
Right.
And the Townsend family, go back many years, and we had seen a picture with loads of churns on there. We couldn't work out what it was, but we have found out that they did have one house cow, though they kept pigs mainly and had a coal business. They did milk one cow.
Okay. Right.
And this farm here was Mr. Hyatt, we understand. Well, the Humphreys family, Iris Humphreys was indeed one of Bampton's councillors.
Right.
So the that particular family have had a lot to do with Bampton for many years, and they were at this farm that you're on now.
Oh, right.
And they milked just a few cows. On the corner, as you go past here and take that turning right where you got Simon Collins' house on the corner there, and you turn right, there was a little farm there, Ernest Parker, and Tommy Gowan used to was his farm manager at one time, and they had cows. So you had all these farms. The next farm down here was Home Farm, which is now called the old farmhouse. That was a herd of Lincoln Reds. So there's so many, and of course all the kids knew exactly what went on, because for something to do at weekends, the kids would go and work on the farms.
Oh yeah.
Or play on the farm, but be given a £10 an hour for for doing things, you know,
Yeah.
and that's all disappeared, you know, and
Yeah.
you are indeed the last person to milk a cow in Bampton,
Yeah.
you know, for
Yeah.
commercial purposes.
Good.
Going back to your dad, and all that sort of thing, where you learnt your. When did you milk your first cow? How old were you when you milked your first cow?
Oh God. 7, 8.
Same as me. By hand, or you learnt to put a machine on?
Both. Father said there's only one way to appreciate what a cow's, or what's happening to a cow, so to milk it by hand.
Yeah.
And of course then my hands weren't sort of strong enough, but you know.
You could still get something out.
It would let me milk a nice
Yeah.
cow by hand. He said, show me how to do it and see how we get on. And we did achieve it. The hands ate a lot.
Didn't they just? The little muscle there would come up, wouldn't it?
But now, well, no, I finished. I know, but now you strip a cow out,
Yeah.
nothing off it.
So that was another thing that when milking machines first came out, most farms would strip afterwards. Your dad part of that? I'm talking 1950s, 1940s, 50s,
Yeah.
and milking machines had been going 50, 60 years then. You know, the turn of the 1800s to the 1900s was your very first milking machine, but
Yeah.
not many were about. And then as you got to the 1940s, farms that did have milking machines, they'd take the milking machine or get as much milk out as they could,
Yeah.
and then go behind and strip out.
Check them, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, they wouldn't get much.
No,
And then
no.
of course, right at the end of the era, I suppose you had ACRs.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Which is if you tell people, because your ACRs were probably more up to date than mine. So tell me, what was your ACRs like?
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were automatics, which basically, as soon as the milk level in the cow had dropped, there were sensors in the actual meter that would register. It's registered in the milk coming through all the time. And as soon as that
Because you were direct pipelines, so
Yeah.
yours would be different to mine.
So as soon as that milk level had dropped by certain amount, and then it would lapse for about sort of 10 seconds, and as I said, right, no more milk coming up, the unit would automatically come off the cow. The vacuum would stop, and then the cord would pull, and off the units would come.
Yeah, so there was this whole difference of the spectrum that in our father's days, they were after every ounce, every spot of milk they could get
Yeah.
out of a cow, and at the end, because I was on automatic cluster removal as well, and that, like you're saying, that as soon as the flow stopped for a short period of time,
Yeah.
mine was a float. As long as the float was floating with the milk coming through, it was all right.
Yeah.
Then the float would drop, and
Yeah.
a magnet in the float would pull a magnet from underneath, switch off the vacuum, and a rope would pull the cluster off.
Yeah.
Big
It's all
changes.
fascinating, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's like in your father's day and my father's day, cutting corn. They would actually go in with a scythe and cut round the crop before a tractor went in, because a tractor would have run over the corn.
That's right.
And you know, so every bit they learnt not to waste.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that the kids today could learn from is not wasting.
Not wasting things. That's right. Yeah. It's,
What about tricks of the trade? 'Cause I didn't learn, and I've written about this in the Bampton Beam actually. What worries me is that you will be moving on, and I doubt if you're going to go back into milking.
no, I've done my
You're right, yeah, and that's exactly how I felt.
done my apprenticeship.
yeah. So, and of course, there isn't the amount or the enthusiasm in the country to go to milk cows, because in the end they're going to ship it from abroad, and I think that is absolutely terrible if they're not already.
Yeah, well, they are bringing it in already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, in my day there was no such thing as long life milk.
No,
Milk
that's
went
it.
off in 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, it's fresh and it's fresh. And
That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas the milk in your fridge now stay there for nearly a week.
Yeah.
type of thing. So that does enable the country to import, which of course is the worst thing out, because one thing this country can do well is produce grass and produce milk.
Yeah.
But going back, I didn't learn this till 1964, 65, and I've been milking cows from 1954. I had responsibility of a herd of Guernseys down the road there,
Right.
and I was 17. I had control of it. But my dad had his own methods of dealing with a cow that kicked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
One of them was to get a brick and smack them in the back and make them sore so they wouldn't want to move. Absolutely terrible. Another one was tie their legs together. So usually they kick with both
Well,
legs.
yeah, they kick themselves off the ground.
But I don't know whether you've heard of this one. A chap come to work for us from Norfolk, and he come in and he says, I got his cow's legs tied. He said, what are you doing? I said, no, she kicks. Oh, you don't want to do that, he says. And he caught hold of her tail, put her tail dead upright,
Yeah.
so 180 degrees to the ground sort of thing, so
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And you know, because that froze, that was like a pressure point, and she couldn't kick. But of course, you have to be two.
That's
That's
right. Yeah.
One man outfits,
Yeah.
you were lost. So you were the same as me, kick bars, were you?
Kick. Yeah. Coming back onto breeding, when, like
Yeah.
you said, the first artificial straws come from America. And
Yeah.
there was a slight noticeable change that animals were a bit quieter,
Placid, yeah.
more placid. And the use of kick bars and things tend to get less and less. And I'd probably say in the last 2-3 years of young animals coming, there's probably only 1 or 2 I might have used it on.
Really?
When you're bringing in
Because
sort of,
you bred well.
20-25 heifers a year.
Yeah.
But going back a decade or a couple of decades before, when it was pure Frisians, yes, there were some so-and-sos then.
How did you cope? Tie the legs together or kick
No,
bars?
if there was an animal that wouldn't settle down, my trick was put a rope straight over the top of her,
Yeah.
come down through in front of the udder,
Yeah.
and pull it as tight as possible.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
sort of tends to neutralise it as well. Because as you know yourself, you've got a cow there that's been a bit dappy with her legs. You've got to have both hands to put the clusters on.
That's right.
And you cannot, you either want 2 people or a third hand,
Yes.
because usually time you're getting the 4th cup on, there she was
Kicking off
moving her
again.
feet, and you can't do that quick and jack a tail up, you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right.
But
See,
yeah,
that's another trick of the trade that your dad would have done. My dad did it, and I have done it 2 or 3 times myself. But I've certainly, if you said, well, come and show me, I wouldn't be able to do it now. And that was to cast a cow,
right. Yeah.
where you would put a rope round its neck,
Yeah.
and a half hitch,
Yeah.
then in just behind its front legs,
Yeah.
and then the area you're talking about, just in front of the udder,
Yeah.
with half hitches, and then you stand behind it, so the rope is coming down the back of the animal.
That's it, follow the spine down.
Then that's
Yeah.
follow the spine down with these 2 half hitches going round
Yeah.
its body,
Yeah.
and you pull, and it sits down.
Yeah.
And then when it went down, you jumped on it. Somebody had to jump on its head,
Yeah.
tie its legs, and that's the way you treated their feet. I couldn't do it now, Alan. Did you ever do it, or did your dad ever do it?
Yeah, we used to do cows like that. We've done, funny enough, one probably in the previous 12 months that got a displaced abomasum,
Right.
which a lot of people wouldn't know about, because it's one of the stomachs of a cow, and it gets displaced because it lies in the belly of the cow.
Gets twisted, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gets twisted. And that's one way of bringing her down, because you want her down in a straw yard.
Of course, yeah.
And then as soon as you're down, like you say, one takes care of the head, but you've got to tip the cow all 4 feet up, and then this displaced part of the stomach sort of floats, and the vet actually like staples this part of the stomach to the outer lining of the cow, and keeps it in place.
Master job.
You know, whereas 5-6 years ago, the only way you cure that problem was an operation.
Yeah.
You know, it seems to work.
But yeah, people don't realise that being a cowman isn't just about milking cows.
Oh goodness, no, that's just a,
To start off with, you are the first vet, because the cow comes in and you have to notice and diagnose
anything.
what's wrong with that cow before seeking to do something about it.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. You jack of all trades, isn't it?
Absolutely, Alan.
And
Absolutely.
but in its own content of dealing with animals, you know, you like I say, you're the first line of
That
veterinary
cow's health.
treatment,
Yeah.
or you know, first thing in the morning, you know, well, what's wrong with that cow? She's led a bit funny. Come down to calving, you know, same as.
Or calcium deficiency or magnesium deficiency.
Yeah.
I mean, there again, a cow can be dead within 2 hours with a milk fever.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that can be 3 o'clock in the blinking morning.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's no way of it you're going to get a vet out. So the only person to do it is you, the cowman.
Yeah.
And you've got to work out, is she silly in the head, therefore it's magnesium, or is she dozy, therefore it's calcium?
Yeah.
You had to decide which of the two it was, and with a butterfly valve, stick it into. I never did it in the vein. Did you ever get yourself skilled enough to do it in the vein?
Yeah, I
Did you?
virtually always done it in the vein.
Did you really?
Always, yeah.
Would you explain what it is you're putting in the vein? Because you two know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you go ahead, Alan. you
I-
did it more recent than I have.
I do as well, but of course,
Yeah, I
if
mean,
someone's going to listen,
Cow that have hypocalcemia, which is basically a shortage of calcium. This is usually brought on. It can be brought on before they calve,
Yeah, that's right.
but it's usually brought on through the stress of calving, and a cow needs all of a sudden rush of calcium. And the only place you can draw it from is through the bones, but it doesn't happen that quick. So you have to intervene with giving them like a saline solution of calcium. And there's a rapid way of doing it, and there's a slow way of doing it. And the rapid way is directly into the vein. Depends on how lively the cow is. The cow might be still standing, in which case the vein's really not an option unless you've got somebody there where you can tie her up somewhere. So then you tend to do it under the skin because she's not too bad, although stubborn cows will struggle to get up, and they rock and they sway, and you know you've got to treat them quick, because as soon as they go down, you're, what can you say, an hour is a hell of a long time.
Yeah, they can be dead.
Yes. Yeah.
They can be dead.
Yeah.
I was always worried about going into the vein, because if you get an airlock and all that sort of thing, you could get into it. You know, so I was always scared of that. But so what I usually did, if a cow was down, the first thing I would do is to get the bottle of calcium. Was it? Is it a litre? Wasn't it? 100 ml.
400 ml.
400 ml.
Yeah.
400 ml and of that 40% was calcium, right?
Yeah.
Or magnesium, or you could even have 20-20. And what I would do was warm it to get it to blood temperature,
That's right. Yeah.
and then I would stick it under the skin and then massage it while around. But I was always a little bit frightened.
Yeah, you warm it up to roughly body temperature,
Yeah,
and then
and it's
it
absorbed
disperses quicker.
what's the difference in what you see with a cow that needs calcium and a cow that needs magnesium?
Magnesium deficiency, a cow usually looks drunk. If she's still walking, she's drunk, and she'll wobble about in a drunken state, or she's doing funny things with her head. Calcium usually drops them.
Yeah,
That's
it's roughly. It's a little bit of knowing actually what so how a cow is as regards her gestation period. If she's dry, just come out
That's
the calf.
true. That is
But
very
then
true.
You can be fooled either way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But the main thing is going back to treating calcium as a magnesium deficiency. Magnesium you must not put in the bloodstream because you will kill the cow.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas that's got to be a very slow absorption,
Yeah.
which you've got to put under the skin, no matter how bad the cow is.
Yeah.
It's just got to go under the skin. If you inject it into the blood vein,
Yeah.
then
Pop them off.
400
If a
mil.
cow has suffered like that once, is she likely to do it again next time she calves?
Calcium tends to be in the older cows. Yes, you can avoid it through nutrition and various things. I mean,
That's right, minerals. We used to feed minerals with a high magnesium concentrate.
with low calcium.
Yeah.
Was that the lick that you used to put out for them in that round?
Kind of. It wasn't
older-
the best way of doing it, but you could get magnesium
Yeah.
enriched licks. But see, magnesium can affect you any time in the lactation,
That's right.
whereas calcium, if they're about to calve or have just calved, that would be the first thing. If they've gone down, that'd be the first thing you'd look for.
Yeah.
Would be calcium.
Yeah. It's like a safer route to go anyway. Calcium.
Yeah.
I mean, calcium will slightly revive a magnesium cow because the stuff I used to have slight magnesium in there
Yeah,
as well.
I did. There was a 2020, wasn't there? You could have. There was a mixture of both.
Yeah, I think that one had a bit of phosphate in it as well.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I used to use the 40%, but then
Yeah.
there was still a bit of.
Yeah. So once again, you see, you were the vet, and you would have in your store.
Oh yes.
You would have a bit of everything. You'd have probably half a dozen bottles of calcium, half a dozen bottles of magnesium, half a dozen bottles of mixed.
Yeah. I did used to carry a bottle of magnesium, but magnesium wasn't too much of a problem.
Right. See, now that's another thing.
You can put things in water to
Yeah.
avoid.
Yeah, and actual
System.
fact, I've done that. They could get powder you put in your water
Yeah.
to lift the magnesium.
Yeah.
But a lot was depending on where you farmed and what your soil type
Oh yeah.
was like, because
Oh,
Lou
absolutely.
was bad for magnesium, whereas Bampton isn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, our main thing that we were short of on this farm was copper. So
Really?
at one stage we used to inject. Well, when I first came, we used to inject the copper, but then
Copper affects fertility,
yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the later stage, probably the last 20 years, we just upped the copper level in the minerals, made sure we fed enough minerals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, with copper deficiency, easy way of detecting it is if you've got a black cow and she's gone
Right.
brownish in her coat.
Yeah. If she turned coppery, she was short of
She
it.
was short.
How fascinating. Yeah. Presumably somebody would do soil tests and grass tests. Where did you send those samples off to?
They did usually, wouldn't
I
it?
think it was Reading, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't
No,
actually-
was
Only
it-
Park.
yeah, I didn't actually get involved with actual testing. I mean,
That'd be Simon's job.
that'd be Simon's job.
Yeah.
There's only so much work I want to do.
But that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, from a historic point of view, the fewer dairies there are, the fewer centres for testing. So I mean, it's jobs all down the line.
Oh,
that are
absolutely.
going. It's not just
Oh, yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
The ones I want to get, Janet, want to see them out of work is these idiots. They're working for DEFRA because you will read it in the Bampton Beam that my informant with the green wellies, I'm not saying any more than that, had a cow that had a baby calf the cow was aged 14 or 15. 15,
Right.
she was over 15 years of age.
Right.
And because the government powers, DEFRA and all the rest of it, insist that as soon as a baby calf is born, you have to give it an ear number. And within, is it 3 weeks, you have to get a passport?
Within Yeah, 27 days.
27 days.
So
You have to have a passport for that animal.
Yeah.
And you can do it online. So
Yeah.
my informant in Greenwell he did no more than went online. And the computer said, he put in the computer the ear number of the mother,
Right.
and it come up, this is impossible. This cow is too old to have a calf. And this, my informant said, well, that can't be, because I know the cow, I've had it for 15 years or whatever it is, and she just had a baby.
Yeah.
Do you wish to proceed? Yes, I do wish to proceed. So he pressed the button, proceeded. Within a couple of weeks, he had DEFRA demanding he got all his cows in,
Oh, right.
because they wanted to read all the ear numbers.
Yeah.
They
Right.
couldn't believe that what he was trying to tell them. And so this woman spent from 9 o'clock to 4:30 going through all his books, all his details, all his earmarks, and absolutely everything, and had to physically check the animals. And she went home without finding anything. But he is still worried that he hasn't done something right, and they'll stop his payments. That's the people I want to see out of work, not the people like Allan who's producing food. Sorry, sorry, Mr. Cameron. But yeah,
But there are
I feel very
people
strongly.
who don't
Yeah.
understand what they're doing.
I don't think DEFRA do. Have they ever?
No. But once again, yeah, the whole industry will be shutting down, because, as Alan's just said, if you had a baby calf die and you want a post-mortem, you weren't happy with it, then you would take the carcass or parts of the carcass to Coley Park,
Yeah.
and they would tell you exactly what this animal died of,
Yeah.
and so you could look out for
But
it.
they can't do that now. If you've got a cow died and you want to know what's wrong with it, a vet can't do the post-mortem on the farm.
Really?
No.
Really?
No.
So who takes it?
Well, technical area, they sort of could, but what they got to do is put everything back into the cow, stitch it up. Be a nice, neat job.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Before they will.
This cow should never have died.
Before the lorry will take it away. See.
Ah, stupid.
You know, whereas, so years ago, or perhaps we didn't have the cow post-mortem on the farm, we'd have it done at the kennels. Yeah, take the cow to
That's
the
right.
kennels. And
That's
the vet
right.
would meet at
That's
the
right.
kennels.
See, there again, you're dealing with people who probably haven't got the qualifications, but they've got the experience,
Yeah,
and they would open a calf up and say, well, he died of that.
yeah, yeah.
It's amazing, like I said, how we are the first line, or cowmen are the first line of vets, of exactly what in days gone by we were allowed to do, which I don't think you are now. One was antibiotics. Are you allowed, can you still, in your last days, were you able to go to your vet and say, I want some of tetramycin, or I want some of this?
Yeah,
And could you keep it in your store, antibiotics?
Yes, pretty well. I mean, there are certain drugs that you were never allowed, or there's only a qualified vet are allowed to do, because of what harm they will give to you, or if they got into the wrong hands. But general antibiotics and yeah, certain things.
Well, what's the drug that makes the cow ovulate when you've got a cystic ovary?
Yeah, well, there's several. The prostaglandins.
Right. Were you ever allowed to use them?
No, you're not allowed to have them on the farm. So.
Shh. I was. I don't realise what an intricate job the cowman had. It just was not milking.
No, that's right.
There was so much. It was diet. So, see, in the early days, dare say your dad did it. Certainly, because I'm that bit older than you, I did it. Was mixing your own rations, which isn't allowed today. But we used to have our own mill, our own hammer mill, grind up so many hundredweight of barley, so much of oats, and then we would put in mineral salts and cottonseed cake and all this sort of.
Yeah.
all sorts of things. Make up your own mixture,
Yeah.
which is a lot cheaper than the bought-in product.
Did you say you can't do that now?
No, how long is that? 15, 20 years? No, it's more than that because it's...
Why on earth can't you mix the feed for your own cows?
You have to have a licence.
What, from people who don't know anything about milking?
Yeah, basically. That's DEFRA. That's of course what DEFRA's all about.
In a sense, we got away with it here a little bit because we had a pig unit, and Simon had a licence to mix food for the pigs.
Right.
Right. So we, although we never actually did sort of mix, but it comes down the line of mixing minerals with feeds.
Well, that's what the English farmers couldn't do.
Well,
And that we've been doing since the year dot.
I don't know where it could go back onto an old series. They reckon all farm workers are a load of bloody idiots, I suppose. But I mean that's all it's all down to. They're saying you couldn't put. I don't know why, because minerals weren't licensed, but you couldn't mix foods on a farm. Or you weren't allowed because we had a mixer wagon.
Yeah.
And we put in all, you know.
Yeah, we did at the end.
From,
Yeah.
the two silage maize and grass silage and
Yeah, that's right, maize silage and a bit
put your,
hay and a bit.
or, you know, your whatever in, your bit of wheat and various other products, and we had to have a licence to do that. And they come out and inspect and want to see your buying in list of products, you know, and was that coming from a licensed
supplier,
suppliers and thing, and that supplier had to be licensed, you know, and they wanted their license number and
Oh
God.
dear.
How have we got to a stage where we've got office wallers telling professionals how to do their job, and even going down to making another silage pit down at Backhouse, and somebody from an office said what mix it had to be, and the driver said, that's no good, it'll crack, but you had no choice, and it cracked, and it had to be done again.
A lot of silly rules comes out of EU, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Brussels.
absolutely.
Did that have anything to do with Simon going out of milk, the EU?
I don't really know. I think it could be family.
Yeah, but so basically we need to talk to Simon
Yeah.
about the reasons for going.
Yeah.
An interesting thing that's in today's paper, and I feel so strongly about it. And in fact, today's Daily Express it's somebody that's on my side of the argument, and that is badgers.
All right.
Years and years ago, one of the first TT accredited farms in this area was what is known as the old farmhouse. Right?
Yeah.
Home Farm Weald
Yeah.
had one of the first TT attested. I think the attested bit was where you'd gone more than 2 years without a case of TB.
Yeah.
I mean, TB was prevalent in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And gradually, it was every farmer's ambition to get TTB. You had, I think, something as much as twopence a gallon, which was a lot of money in those days, twopence a gallon extra for TT. In other words, you had no reactors for 1 year. And if you were TT attested, where you'd done more than 2 years that you hadn't had a reactor, it was 4p a gallon of milk, bonus. And so everybody's dream was to get clear of TB, because TB is a terrible disease to give to humans, and it can be given to humans through milk. And nearly, in the end, this country was pretty well free of TB.
It was. Yeah.
And then this new badger law come out. What's your take on the badgers?
Well, there's no doubt the badgers are one of the main problems. I mean, you can get TB from deers, and there's plenty of those sort of roaming about. My opinion on the badgers, they're not solving the problem. Dear government, there's a very strong case that badgers are causing the TB in cattle. Badgers are getting a bit more widespread throughout the country. There's still areas that they're not quite sort of moved to. And my feelings on badgers, so it is proven that they are a major source of TB in cattle. I'd really like to see the government basically take off the protection that a badger's got.
That's
I
right.
don't mind saying keeping the protection, whereas, as you know yourself, donkeys years ago they used to dig the badgers out for all this badger.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
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 No, I'm dead against
Yeah.
that cruelty.
I think if they took, the government took the restriction off of the badgers, or protection off the badgers, and basically let the individual farmers, if they're on their land, deal with them themselves, I think you would find there would be a rapid deterioration in the amount of TB in cattle.
So what the public cannot argue with is that you have a look at the number of badgers, and they started off in Wales, more and more badgers, the West Country, more and more badgers, and it's worked from the west across to the east. And how interesting that the incidence of TB in the dairy herd or in cattle is following that line, exactly the same as the badgers. Now that's not coincidence, Alan.
That's right.
And a bit, like you're saying, the badgers aren't protected, and yet cows aren't.
Yeah, and the government are quite happy.
Yeah.
In a sense, in the right to do all the testing they do,
Yeah.
and take out reactors.
Yeah.
If you're not
Getting to the cause.
treating the cause of the
Yeah.
problem, you know.
Well, what annoys me is that they've done a survey on the general public,
Yeah.
and something like 60% of the general public think that the badgers must stay protected, there must not be a cull,
Right.
but they want thousands and thousands of cows culled when cows are producing beef and milk.
Yeah.
Whether it's an anti-farmer thing, they think, oh, blinking farmers are making money because they're producing milk.
Yeah.
But hang on a minute, that milk feeds our nation.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Yeah. They,
You know,
yeah.
and people are saying, oh yeah, let's protect the badger. Well, what's the badger going to give you? Because you can't kill it to have a badger fur coat or a fur hat. You know, it's absolute madness.
It's this bit where general public wants the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And until there is a time where there's going to be a shortage in food, right?
Until then.
Which
When it's
Well,
not far
well,
away.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because you know the populations. It's not just UK population, but world population. We're talking, you know, and well, I don't honestly know. You know, so I mean, there's a program on, I can't remember what it was, in last week where what the chap's name is now, but basically talking about the deterioration of the wildlife on countryside then, you know, right from birds to butterflies and everything. And the way he was talking, he wanted every acre of land turned back to wilderness. Right? Fair dues, alright? But what are you going to do about 2 weeks down the line when your country's run out of food? You know,
Yeah, that's right.
you know, you cannot take from one hand.
It's probably those
expect it
people
to be
are
another.
in jobs where they got a nice lot of money and they can go and buy stuff that's been imported from the EC or something, you know, and
Well, yeah, but you know,
it's mad. It's just not thinking, and that's why I'm so pleased that more and more people are asking for allotments.
yes,
That people are realising, hang on, the way out of this economic crisis in this country is to produce ourselves.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is how it was, wasn't it, back don't know when it first probably started, probably just after the war, when they started building houses, so everybody had a fair bit of garden.
Yeah.
You
They don't now.
Well, no, because your garden's two other houses now.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
Yeah.
or stack of flats or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And coming full circle now, what's your feelings that your career as a herdsman is over? Something that's been forced upon you. How do you feel?
In a sense, I don't really mind. So I'm 61 now, and I've milked for. I've been on the farm all my life. I've milked for 36 years. So I think I tend to have done. I think I've done
for
my
Queen and Country.
Yeah, I've done my
And milk.
apprenticeship, and I'm looking to do something slightly different.
Yeah.
In the last few years, just to wind myself down, because as you know yourself, with anything with animals, especially cows, it's 7 days a week.
Mm.
Your
Your
day
social
off,
life, everything.
well, that one,
works. Yeah.
Everyone asked you about social life.
Mm.
As you know yourself, something's going on in the summer, and if you had to drive to it a few miles, well, you didn't go because.
Do you know what, Alan? That is exactly what got to me. My eldest grandson was a brilliant cricketer. He actually won a scholarship for Millfield School in Somerset, and he was brilliant. And because of my involvement with farming, I wasn't allowed to have time off to play cricket. Because cricket was a Saturday, and that was the time when Dad wanted us all working to get all the crops and that in.
Yeah.
And so I basically lived my childhood through my eldest grandson.
Yeah.
But he was a damn good bowler. I mean, he got to county level, and he had trials for Gloucester, Northampton, Somerset, and he got to county level, and I would probably go out somewhere in North Oxfordshire watching him play cricket. I've got to get back from milking. Drove back to milking.
Yeah.
That's the time that he probably went into bat.
Yeah.
Dimmy milking, shoot back there again, and he was out.
You missed it.
What was your highs at being a cowman, and what would you say was your lows?
I don't know if there was any strong sort of lows, in a sense that one an odd low would be, apart from what we just said about weekend work and children in the summer, would be sort of waking up in the morning, knew you was
Yeah, even if you had a night out.
you was waiting for the alarm to go off or whatever, and you could hear the rain hammering down, and you think, what the bloody hell am I doing?
Why?
And you come out and you get on your bike and you'd be bloody drowned before you time you go up to work, and I mean, sometimes it used to be that way. Well, when you start a mill, you take your trousers off and that, hang them up in the engine house because they dry out time you finish milking.
Yeah.
Just working you sort of, your pile of trousers. And that highs were always calving cows, and you got a heifer calf from that cow.
I'm glad you said, because that's exactly mine.
Things like that.
A new life, a new baby coming,
Yeah.
and even though, how many were you milking at the end?
We were always around, it's about 105, roughly. Because we sold the cow, so well, previous two years we were struggling to get heifers, the amount of heifers back.
Right.
So you were tending to keep a bit older cows that, well, they ought to have really gone, because you don't like, you can't really keep a cow that's in any sort of distress. I don't mean total animal distress, but if she got a little bit of a not permanent lameness, but prone to being lameness, then you you really like her to go out of the way. So
Yeah.
you were tending to keep cows that in a good scenario.
Yeah,
You would have
the
got rid of.
ones that didn't cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So I had got down in numbers a little bit.
When we sold up, we were 100 and I was milking 120.
Yeah.
But at the peak, I was at 100. Before quotas came out, I was at 150.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
know, as you say, that was a hell of a job. But believe it or not, my bits that was my highs and my bits that were my lows were exactly the same as you.
Right.
When a new baby calf was born, and you probably had to assist,
Yeah.
and it come out,
Yeah.
and you probably give it mouth to mouth very often, you know, clean
Oh,
its
yeah,
mouth out
yeah.
and blow in there. No, I never did swallow a cow's head in my mouth, but you got it going.
Yeah.
And nearly always I say, welcome to our world, because
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
a new life coming in.
Yeah.
And as you say, if it was a heifer calf and it was from a bull that you had chosen,
Yeah.
and you got
Yeah.
that heifer calf there, that was a high.
Yeah.
But and again, like I was saying, and I'd like to say it again now, that you took time to choose that bull.
Mm.
You then got the cow impregnated with that bull.
Mm.
That, in all of it, a cow takes 9 months, that in all would have taken a year.
Yeah.
That would take 2 years for that cow to grow up and have a baby calf.
Yeah.
There's 3 years.
Yeah.
It then's going to milk its first year. There's 4 years before you know whether you made the right decision in choosing that bull.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It is a science and it is a
Yeah.
lifetime
It comes
application.
back to choosing your right bulls to start with, but then you unless you trouble is a lot of say bulls coming from America or Canada and that you obviously can't go and
Straight look at. Yeah.
so you go on the guides of the brochures, and this is where you come back to looking at the proof runs of them and the spread of them, which is thousands of animals in thousands of herds, which that proof's about 99% true. So you've got a good chance of getting what you require.
In my social life, I have quite a bit to do with city councillors in Oxford with the twinning.
Yeah.
And I was discussing with a female councillor once about how you choose these bulls.
Right.
And I showed her the brochures that we get.
Oh yeah.
And I had her believing I would go to a cow, flick through the pages and show her the bulls, and if the cow's ears wagged, I knew that cow liked fancied that bull. But she believed it for a little while.
But doesn't that just go to prove how people outside of animal husbandry
So you know what
have
go on.
absolutely no
No
knowledge?
idea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping, Jan, that Allan and I's chat this morning will have covered that and will give people a bigger insight into what went on and shit went on. And if it's any consolation, Allan, I was 59 and 9 months when I milked my last cow. I was 59 years, 9 months when I milked my first cow. And somebody said to me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, with retirement. I said, I haven't a clue. And somebody said, well, you always what you want to do is what you've always wanted, anything you always wanted to do. And me, as a stupid idiot, wanted to drive buses.
Right.
So I signed on at Enstone, passed my PCV to drive buses,
Oh right. Yeah.
had a mate in Farringdon who I used to teach weightlifting to, phoned him up and said, I've got a PCV, got any jobs for me?
Yeah.
He said, yeah. He said, I'll give you a job. And I was doing a school run with school children. Wrong, Allan. Don't go down that one, will you? Allan, thank you very, very much.
That's a
We
pleasure.
wish you well.
Yeah. Okay.
You're the person who had milked the last cow in Bampton.
Right.
I don't know who in the hell the first one was, but I think you go back many hundreds of years. But you have certainly given us a wonderful insight
Right.
into the intricacies of what goes on. I hope that people, when they see this film through, will think, blimey, yeah, farming was intricate. It was a very clever job, and it was not just clever technical, it was understanding your animal. Thanks ever so much.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. I think one good thing that's coming up nowadays is people are opening their farms
Yes.
to the public.
Yeah. So we can see
it
it.
could be, you know, one way of getting the public
Yeah.
back into knowing what goes on in a farm.
But there again, you see, Alan, brings me to something else. There's two things. One, yeah, many years ago, when farmers had to start diversifying, some people actually built viewing galleries in their milking parlour.
Yeah.
There are a few in this county where you can go and watch the milking. It's designated time where you can go
Yeah.
up into
Yeah.
a gallery and
That's right.
and
Look
look
down.
down on it.
Yeah.
But the one thing that us farmers, we are men of the soil.
Yeah.
We are in it up to our next 90% of our life.
Yeah.
And we have a built-in immunity, right? They have these farms round London, Kent. There was one last October time where E. coli broke out. All these kids
Yeah.
visited,
Yeah.
and they had some of the kids contacted E. coli from this farm.
Yeah.
And the problem there is, I don't blame the animals.
No.
I blame the way we live is so clean, is so sterile,
That's right.
that the kids
That's right.
have got no inbuilt immunity. And
Yeah.
that is sad. So I do wish the public would let their kids get dirty, let their kids experience camping,
Yeah.
going out in rural areas, loving it, roughing it.
That's right.
Cut this out. Of course you cut this out and you got a bit of dirt and it's so what?
Yeah.
Because the way we're going, the first little scratch and you'll be in hospital with some sort of disease, and that's
tetanus
sad.
and things like this.
Yeah.
Well, you know, well, I don't think people let their little kids go out and
Just play.
make mud pies and
That's right.
you know,
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
things like this,
Yeah.
and pull up a carrot out of the garden
And
and
eat
scrape the
it.
red dirt
Yeah.
off and eat it straight away. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet, you see, if you go back right to the times of Jesus, people were milking goats.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were doing things with the soil.
Oh yeah.
And some that you and I have kind of, though it's altered so much, it's altered so much between me and you, our eras, you know, that's, as I say, I've been out of it now for 14, 15 years. It's altered that. And it would go on altering, but you would never get away from the basics.
No, that's right.
And the most beautiful example, of a good friend of mine, he was talking to a colleague, and his colleague was going on about his children, how clever his son was. He could do this with computers, he could do that with computers, he could email, he could do photographs, he could do films and all the rest of it.
Right.
And my mate looked him out in the eye and said, yeah, he said, but can he kill a rabbit? And that, when you think about it, you can have all the computers in the world, but if you're stranded on your own, and you've got wildlife out there, the only way you're going to survive is not by Googling how do I kill a rabbit, because you probably know electric. You'll go out and you'll know how to catch the rabbit, kill it, skin it and eat it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
lovely.
true.
All right, Jan.
Fabulous.
Brill.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you,
That's
Alan.
wonderful.
Yeah.